Hi, so I'm Sam Tumalo, and I did my final project on the 101 inventions that changed the world. And I apologize that this is not the best video, but it's kind of all I got right now. So I work at the Franklin Institute, and this is actually an exhibit that we have, and it's a traveling exhibit from Australia, so it's been all over. And what the exhibit does is it's this video that lists the inventions, where they were, when they took place, but that's kind of all it does. It's hard to really grasp the impact and see patterns in innovation, and I think that's really interesting. We want to know how these began, where they spread, where they started, what types of revolutions occurred in each area, and I thought this would be perfect to map. So I realized I was into the spatial and the temporal distributions of these inventions and where on Earth they took place. So I began by grouping them into several categories and seeing whether there was a geographic pattern over time of where these categories of revolutions began. So this is the book I have, the official book of the exhibit. And if you look, for example, you can see, I'm trying to find a good invention to show. There's a good one. Alright, irrigation supply. That's a big one. It's an early one. So, it shows the year, who invented it, where it happened, and a little bit of a story on it. However, this is one of the problems that occurred. A lot of these early inventions took place in areas that don't really exist anymore. So this says Mesopotamia. I can't download a map of the countries of the world and select Mesopotamia and have anything display. It doesn't exist. So Kuwait was the closest option for everything that was Mesopotamia. Another one is Africa. A lot of early inventions like fire and stone tools came from Africa. But you can't just go into a country's map and hit Africa. It's a whole continent. There's a ton of countries. So I looked up where the earliest showings of these inventions took place, and then I selected them as the invention location, even though places like Kenya didn't exist when fire was invented. So I grouped these inventions into several categories, and there were 6. So I did materials, so just any type of building material in general, food and agriculture, that's one category, communications, light and telecommunications, and space. I then made an attribute table on Excel showing the invention name, the year it was invented, where it was invented, and one of the 6 categories. I then selected key inventions from the book, put them in the categories, and displayed the locations of these key inventions on the map using the data of the countries from Natural Earth data, which is a great data. So the first map I did, let's see if you can see, this map shows the types of revolutions, and I categorized them by 6 different colored graduated symbols and displayed them on the map. This shows the spatial distribution of the revolution types, and one can draw conclusions as to how these revolutions spread, and click on a dot and learn a little bit more about the revolution. Then they could take the book, hypothetically, and then read more specifically about the revolution. But this shows it in a more spatial perspective and shows the patterns, which I think is interesting and what the exhibit is really missing. The next map displays more of a temporal perspective, and for this one I used graduated colors instead of graduated symbols. And the light colors, or the pinks, they're the earliest ones. So those I grouped between, those were all the before Common Era inventions, so fire, stone tools, as I was saying. And then that progressed, and I grouped the other ones from year 1 to 1000, and then 1000 to 1799, and then the 1800s and the 1900s. And this I thought was really interesting, because you can really see where human innovation first began and how it spread over time. So humans obviously began in Africa, and then it began to move towards the Middle East, and then to Europe, and then over to North America. And that's interesting, because you can see it time-wise. So the early inventions occurred in Africa, and a little bit in the Middle East, and then it starts to spread, and then in the 1800s, and some 1700s, Europe was huge. That's the Industrial Revolution, that's Enlightenment, that's everything. And then 1900s and later was big for the US. And that's telecommunications, interestingly. So you can see how the different types of revolutions over time evolved and where it happened. And I just thought this was really neat. This is data I work with every day, and I learn more about it, and I can talk about it in a different way, and I can show this to people, and I can teach it to museum guests, and I'm really, really happy that I did this. Thank you.